Hey, boys and girls, how are you doing? We are on Sunday, April 18th. We have a ton to talk about, so let's just hop into it. Miss Stephanie last week talked about Jesus coming back and appearing to Mary and talking about the tomb and how everything was folded nice and neat. And she mentioned how I'm going to talk to you about all the different people he came to visit. So, I'll just go ahead and get started. I've got some great pictures for you and a couple stories. So let's see how you guys can follow along. You ready? Okay. So first, here is our first picture. You can see three guys there. One of them is Jesus, but we don't know that yet. So there's these two guys walking along, and suddenly Jesus himself comes along and joins them. And he says, "What are you talking about? What makes you look so sad?" And Cleopas is one of the guys. We don't know who the other one is. He says, "Well, you must be the only person who hasn't heard about the terrible things that happened in Jerusalem last week on the very first Easter." Jesus pretends like he doesn't know. He says, "What things are you talking about?" They said the things that happened to Jesus of Nazareth. He was a prophet who worked unbelievable miracles and was a mighty teacher, thought of very highly by God and man. But the chief priests and our religious leaders had him arrested. They handed him over to the Roman government to be condemned to death, and he was crucified last week. We had hoped that he was Israel's glorious Messiah who had come to rescue us and free us. And besides all this that happened 3 days ago, some women from our group were at his tomb. Early in the morning, they came back with a shocking report that his body was missing and that they had seen an angel who told them that Jesus is alive. Some of the men ran out to see, and sure enough, Jesus' body was gone. But they didn't see Jesus. So we're all really confused and troubled, and we don't know. Did somebody take our friend? Is he alive? And Jesus said to them, "Foolish people you are! Why is it so hard to believe all the prophets wrote in the scriptures? Did the prophets clearly foretell that it was necessary for Christ, the Messiah, to suffer all these things before he will reign as king?" And then Jesus quoted to them many passages from the prophets, and he explained what they meant. What a marvelous Bible lesson that must have been. So by this time, they were nearing a town called Emmaus, their hometown. And Jesus was pretending to keep walking, but they begged him. They said, "It's getting late. You should come and stay with us." Okay. We had a little chat on the road, got to meet these two men. So he went to their home, and they prepared some food. They're eating supper. And after they sat down, Cleopas asked the stranger to thank the Lord for the food. Of course, Jesus gladly did. He took the bread, he broke it into pieces, he passed it to them. Just like he did in the Last Supper, he broke bread and prayed to God, and they look at their shocked faces. "We've heard this before. This is our friend Jesus." Their eyes were opened and they recognized him. Jesus, their risen Lord. And at that moment, he disappeared. Whoop! He was no longer with them. He just vanished out of their sight. They were amazed and astounded and said to each other, "So Mary Magdalene was right? She has seen the Lord after all, and we have seen him too. Jesus is really alive. What glorious news! Did not our hearts burn within us when we talked to him on the road?" Oh, they knew all along it was Jesus. That's exciting. So what did they do? Well, they immediately ran to go tell the other disciples, all the other friends. So when the two from Emmaus arrived, puffing and out of breath, they said, "Quick, let us tell you some wonderful news." The disciples ran to greet them. They hurried up the stairs. They said, "The Lord has really risen. He appeared to Peter." And after that, the couple from Emmaus told their story of how Jesus had appeared to them when they were walking along the road and how they recognized him. That evening, the disciples and some other followers of Jesus were together in a room with all the doors and windows locked because they were afraid of the Jewish leaders, right? Because after the crucifixion and the resurrection, the Jewish leaders are mad. They've got lots of guards out, and so they're trying to stay safe, protect themselves. They go into their home, they lock all the doors and the windows. Everything is totally closed. No one's coming in. And suddenly, as they're talking, look who appears to them. Who appears to them? Can you see his hands? Who has a hand like that? That's right. Through all the locked doors and all the locked windows, Jesus appears to his disciples, to all of his friends. Jesus said to them, "Why are you so scared? Why do you have doubts that it is really I? Don't be troubled. Look at my hands and my feet. You can see that I'm really your Lord. Touch me. Make sure I'm not a ghost, for ghosts don't have bodies as you see I have." And as they looked at the mark of the nails on his hands and his feet, they couldn't believe it was really true. They still had doubts. Then, to their great surprise, he asked, "Do you have anything here to eat?" So they gave him some broiled fish. They knew that he was alive and real because no one's ever seen a ghost eat anything. You guys seen the movies when ghosts eat, goes right through them, falls right in. Well, he actually ate because he is alive. And it is really Jesus. So he explained to them all the things that had happened, just as the prophets had said. So 8 days later, the disciples were together again in the same place, and Thomas was with them this time. Do you guys know Thomas? Sometimes he's referred to as Doubting Thomas. Oof, what a name. Miss Stephanie talked to us about doubting, right? She said, "Do you believe it or doubt it?" Do you believe that Mr. Walter loves to wear bow ties? I believe that. No doubt about it. So he's known as Doubting Thomas because he doesn't believe much. So Jesus appears to his disciples again. And what a look of shock and surprise came over Thomas's face. A little ashamed too for doubting. He had to touch the nail-scarred hands and see it for himself. He knew that indeed this was the risen, living Christ. And he fell humbly to his knees at Jesus' feet and cried, "My Lord and my God." Not only did Thomas confess Jesus as Savior, but he made him Lord of his life. And that's what God wants us all to do, to give our lives to him all the way and make him our King and Lord. So then Jesus told Thomas, "You believe because you have seen me. But blessed are those who haven't seen me and believe anyway." So that's our verse for this week. It comes from John chapter 20, verse 29. I'll read it again. Then Jesus told him, "Because you have seen me, you have believed. But blessed are those who have not seen and yet believe." Just like us. I've never seen Jesus, but I believe in him because these scriptures tell me. Well, Jesus keeps appearing to his friends. So far, he appeared to his friends on the road to Emmaus. He appeared in a totally locked up room. And then he appeared to Doubting Thomas, who's not so doubting anymore. So let's see another time that Jesus appears. So here are his disciples. They're normally fishermen, so they're off fishing, doing their normal thing. And they're not catching anything. It's later. It's nighttime. Nighttime's a good time to fish. They keep putting their nets down, leave them for a long time, pulling up nothing. They're getting tired. So Nathaniel, one of the men on the boat, he says, "Well, we might as well just go into shore. We've worked all night and caught nothing." So as they neared the beach at dawn, they saw a man on the shore, but they couldn't really see who he was. And he called, "Children, did you catch any fish?" "No, not one," they called back. And he said, "Throw out your net on the right-hand side of the boat, and you'll get plenty of fish." Well, who do you suspect that man on the shore is? Can you see him? I bet you're right. I bet it's Jesus. So they did. They threw their nets out again, and sure enough, what a miracle. And who performs miracles? Jesus. You're right again. And at once, John recognized the man standing on the shore was Jesus. Look at all the fish they caught. Oh my goodness, it's pulling over the boat. So Peter took one look at Jesus, he jumped into the water, and he started to swim ashore. My best friend, I'm coming. I gotta give him a hug. I would do the same thing. I miss my best friend. She lives all the way in Arizona. I would swim to shore to see her. The rest of the disciples stayed in the boat and continued to struggle with all of this fish. They're like, wait a second. Hold on. We want to come. We're going to fall into the water. So when they got to the shore, they all crowded around Jesus and they told him how glad they were to see him. To see him was even more thrilling than all of the fish that they caught. So, is Jesus dead? No, he's not. He gave up his life on the cross, but he came back to life with that big juicy word, resurrection. And he didn't just, come back, see what I can do. He visited his friends to prove that he is still alive. So they saw, they believed. We don't see, but we can still believe because of these stories that we hear in all of the Gospels. Do you remember our verse for the week? It's found in John chapter 20, verse 29. I'll read it for you again. Because you have seen me, referring to Thomas, you have believed. But blessed are those who have not seen and yet believe. So we're going to do a little craft. If you'd like, our lesson here is over. But for the craft, if you'd like to follow along, you'll need a piece of white paper and just like a scrap piece of red paper. And we are going to draw both our hands onto this paper. And once I have it drawn, I'll come back and show you. Okay? Here are my hands. It's probably easier if you have somebody help you. Lay them both down so your thumbs are touching and trace them. And we are going to cut the fingers, the tops out, but leave the bottom. I'll show you. Here you go. So it almost looks like my hands are on a stand. Now, with our red piece of paper, we are going to make 2 hearts to fit into the 2 palms of our hands. I'll show you what that looks like. So I have 2 hearts, and I'm going to glue them here. And why is that? What went through Jesus' hands? Nails went into his hands. And how did the disciples know that it was truly him? They saw his nail-scarred hands. So we are going to put hearts on these hands to remind us that it was Jesus' love on his hands that saves us so we can believe. So I'm going to put this together and I'll show you the finished product. So here is my finished product, my hands with the hearts in the middle, and I've written our verse. Blessed are those who have not seen and yet have believed. John 20:29. So you can make this into a stand. So it can sit on the table. You can put some string through one finger to the other and hang it on the wall, hang it on a door, just to remind you not to be a doubting Thomas, and to remember who we believe in and why we believe. So I think that's pretty cool. Jesus was not a ghost. He was a real person that you could touch and feel. He ate food. He is still alive, and he cares for you very much. So wonderful talking to you guys. We'll see you again later. Bye-bye.